This is actually a story that involves a friend of mine. It's called the Shaggy Dog Story. Okay, so the friend of mine's called Dave. Dave's a really good guy. Well, some people think Dave's a good guy. I think Dave's a good guy. Some people don't, but that's okay. So Dave's a good guy. Dave's also a really good runner. So Dave's out running a lot. One day Dave was out running and he saw posted on a signpost a big sign. As makes sense on a signpost. So Dave walked over to the sign and it said, "Lost. Really shaggy dog. Big reward." And Dave thinks to himself, I like dogs. You know what I really like? Big rewards. So Dave thinks, I'm going to keep a lookout for this dog every time I'm out of the house, and I'm going to claim that dog and I'm going to get my reward. So Dave sees nothing for the next week or two, and Dave's starting to get really discouraged. Dave's starting to think there's really no point keeping up this search. Until one night, Dave's out running. It's about 7, 8 o'clock. It's actually starting to get dark. Pretty hard to see. And Dave sees just out of the corner of his eye, something move. And that thing darts behind some bushes. So Dave creeps quietly up to the bushes. Wants to make sure he doesn't scare away whatever's there. And he peeks his head around and he pounces. But there's nothing there. Now Dave's really discouraged now because Dave thought he'd found his dog. So Dave puts his head down sadly and he turns to walk home. And just as he turns to walk home, he trips over the biggest, shaggiest dog he's ever seen. And Dave looks at the dog. And the dog looks back at Dave. And then the dog turns and runs. Now it's lucky Dave's a very fit man. But if you ever tried to chase a dog that's running away, you know that dogs can run pretty fast. Okay, so Dave's just fast enough that he can just about see the dog in the distance as they keep running. And they keep on running for minutes and minutes. Dave feels like he's been running for hours. Okay, even though Dave's really fit, he's still starting to get really exhausted when finally he catches up to the dog. Okay, and Dave catches up to the dog. He looks down at the dog, and Dave swears to this day that the dog winked back at him. Okay, but Dave wants to make sure that the dog isn't going to be able to get away again, so Dave grabs the dog's collar. Okay, and the problem Dave has is now it's pretty late at night and it's getting dark, and Dave's been chasing this dog for so long, Dave doesn't actually know where he is. Okay, so now Dave's got two problems. He needs to get his dog home, and he needs to figure out where home is. So Dave grabs the dog's collar, okay, because he doesn't have a lead, he's only got his collar, and Dave walks slowly in the direction he thinks his home. Sadly, not actually the direction home was. So Dave wanders around the streets in the dark for hours and hours, until finally, it's about midnight I think he said, Dave finally makes it home with the dog. Okay, and Dave's so exhausted by this point, he can't even think about doing anything to find the owner, so Dave gives the dog some food, and Dave goes to bed. Okay, so Dave wakes up in the morning to something wet on his face. Okay, so the really big shaggy dog standing over Dave and he's licking Dave's face. Okay, which is great because Dave remembers what he's spent all last night doing, and Dave knows he needs to find the owner of this dog. So Dave checks the collar. Okay, and the collar of this dog has a phone number, and it has the owner's name. It doesn't have the dog's name, which is strange, because normally your dog's name's on your collar, but said, okay, Max, call this number. So Dave called this number, and a lady answered. Max? Dave said. There was a silence on the end of the line. Are you Max? Well, no, I'm a lady. Do you know where Max is? He's not here. Do you know where I can find Max? Well, Max actually moved out a few days ago. So, more bad news for Dave. Okay, because now Dave's got this dog, and Dave likes dogs. He really wants to get this dog back to his owner, but more importantly, what does Dave want? Dave wants his really big reward. Okay, so Dave asked the lady, do you know where I can find him? She says, I don't have a phone number, but I know where he's moved to. So Dave copies down the address, and first thing he does is he calls work and says, I won't be in today, I have something very important to do. And Dave sets off to the address the lady's done set for him. Okay, now this place is a few hours away. Okay, so Dave's driving pretty much all day, and by the time he gets to this town, again, it's really late at night, so Dave thinks, I'm just going to have to find a hotel, find somewhere to stay for the night, and I'll go and try and find his owner in the morning. Okay, so Dave drives around all these hotels, but there's one thing that a lot of hotels don't like you having.
A dog.
Hotels don't like pets. So Dave's driving around all night and he walks into hotels and he says, can my dog and I have a room for tonight? No, we don't allow pets here. Especially not big shaggy ones like that. Okay, so David has to go back to his car, he'd drive to the next hotel and he'd try the same thing again. Until finally Dave finds the most run down, the sleaziest, the worst hotel in town. And he says, "Can my dog and I stay here for tonight?" And they say, "Yes, absolutely, you can have a room." Okay, so by this time Dave's absolutely exhausted, so he sets out some food for the dog. Once again, Dave goes to bed. Okay, so Dave's really tired from all his driving, all his walking around, all his wandering. So it's almost midday by the time Dave wakes up this time. Which is, as you know, after the time he's supposed to be out of hotels. So Dave wakes up to somebody banging loudly on his door. Okay, "You need to have moved out from this hotel." Okay, checkout time's 10 a.m. So Dave panics, he grabs his dog, okay, and he runs towards the door. Of course, being the biggest, shaggiest dog in the world, okay, half of that hotel's now covered in dog fur. Okay, but Dave can't worry about that now. Dave needs to find the owner of his dog. So Dave gets the dog and he gets back into his car and he drives to the address the lady gave him. It's a little tiny shack, okay, just on the edge of the water and right near the end of a big long jetty. So Dave knocks on the door of the shack. No one answers. So Dave knocks again, louder. No one answers. So Dave yells, "Anybody home?" Absolutely no answer. So this is really disappointing for Dave, obviously, until he sees a man, obviously attracted by his yelling and his banging, walking up to him. Okay, the man's walked up from the end of the jetty, so Dave says, "Are you Max?" The man shakes his head, "Not Max." "Do you know where I can find Max?" "Actually, I do." So Dave thinks his journey's just about to get to an end. He says, "Do you know where he is?" "Yeah. He just set sail yesterday." So Dave's really committed to this by now. So Dave thinks, "I'm going to get a boat and I'm going to sail after this man. I'm going to give him his dog back." So Dave asks the man, "Can I borrow a boat?" And the man asks Dave, "Do you have any sailing experience?" "No." "Have you ever been in a boat before?" "No." "Have you ever seen a boat before?" "No." "Can I borrow a boat?" Man says, "Sure, why not?" Okay, so he takes him down to the end of the jetty and he shows him the oldest, most rickety boat you've ever seen. Okay, maybe that's why he was so willing to lend it to Dave. Okay, but unfortunately, because Dave's woken up so late, what time of day is it now? It's just getting on to night time again, so Dave thinks, "I'll have to set off sailing in the morning." So he gets the keys for the boat from the man, and he tries the door of the shack. The door of the shack opens, and Dave goes to sit down on the first bed. Unfortunately, first bed, too hard. Dave goes to sit down on the second bed. Too soft. And then Dave walks into the master bedroom and he finds a bed that is just right and he goes to sleep for the night after, of course, feeding the dog. Okay, so Dave wakes up bright and early the next morning, ready to set sail. So Dave grabs the keys to the boat, walks down to the end of the jetty and sets off in the direction of the islands that the man pointed to. He didn't think to ask anything more, he just sailed off in the same direction he thought the man went. Okay, so Dave's not a very good sailor. He doesn't really know where he's going, and he doesn't really know how to make the boat go where he wants. So Dave's almost sailing around in big circles, okay, but he's slowly getting further out to sea. And Dave feels like he's been sailing for hours. And then he remembers something. Dave's sailing out to try and find the man so he can return his dog and collect his big reward. But there's one thing Dave didn't bring on the boat with him. Dave forgot to bring his dog. So Dave turns the boat around. Well, he tries because he's not a very good sailor, but eventually Dave gets the boat turned around and he sails back to the jetty. Okay, now unfortunately by now, very late in the day, getting dark, and Dave thinks, I'd better not set sail at night because I'm bad enough in the daylight. So Dave walks back into the house, feeds the dog, finds his just right bed, goes back to sleep. The next day, Dave thinks, I'm absolutely going to remember everything this time. So Dave packs a little bit of water, he grabs the dog, and he sets off sail again. And Dave's sailing all day and all night. And he can just see the islands getting bigger off in the distance. But he knows he's not going to make it by night time. Okay, so Dave settles down for the night, goes to sleep, wakes up in the morning to something very big and wet on his face again. Okay, dog's woken Dave up. And the good news is they've been drifting all night, and unlike everything else in this story, they've actually drifted really close to where they want to be. Okay, so Dave thinks, I might be really close to actually achieving something here. So Dave docks the boat and he walks onto the island. And he looks around. Absolutely deserted. Nobody there. Okay, which is really disappointing. So Dave stands on the beach and he surveys out and he sees another little island just further off in the distance. So Dave jumps back on the boat, sails across the other island, and this time, just as Dave's docking on shore, he sees a figure standing on the beach. So Dave docks on the beach and he gets off the boat. He remembers to grab the dog off the boat this time, and he walks up to the figure and says, "Are you Max?" The man replies, "No, who's Max? He was sailing to this island." "Don't know him, boss. Can't help you." So Dave takes a look around the island, can't see anybody else. Strange option for that one man to be living there by himself, but Dave gets back on his boat, scans the horizon, sees another island off in the distance, and Dave sets sail to the next island. Okay, so Dave's been at sea for about 3 days now. He's actually starting to run out of food. He didn't pack very much water, and the dog's getting a bit unhappy as well. So Dave sails across to the next island, and he docks the boat. But this time, Dave sees another boat docked next to his. Dave thinks, wow, that must be Max's boat. I'm really in luck here.
Nope. Nope.
So Dave jumps onto the shore of the island. He yells, "Anybody here?" No answer. So he yells again, louder. "Anybody here?" And then he hears a really faint yell from far over the other side of the island. "No!" That's not very funny, Dave thought. But anyway, Dave walks over to the other side of the island. Dave walks over to the other side of the island and he sees the figure with the voice. And he says, "Are you Max?" And the lady replies, "No. No, I'm not. But I know who he is." And Dave thinks, unlike the rest of my tale, unlike the rest of my journey, I might be just about to get somewhere. So he says, "Do you know where to find Max? Oh, Max was here until yesterday. He set sail to the next island over there." So the problem is, both of these boats look the same, and Dave jumps in one of the boats and he sails off.
Oh, it's the wrong boat.
By himself. Okay, so Dave sails all the way up to the next island.
Oh, that's a dog.
Okay, and he sees another boat, and there's a man sitting in the boat with a hammer in his hand.
Ooh, that's it.
Okay, so Dave's not actually sure whether he should approach the person with the hammer. Okay, so he drops his anchor a little bit offshore and he yells, "Hello!" And the figure on the shore in the boat replies, "Hello!" And Dave figures, well, that's good enough for me. He can't be dangerous. And Dave sails onto shore and he docks his boat. Okay, and he walks over to the man, and obviously this was before all the virus stuff, so he walks up to the man and shakes his hand and says, "I'm Dave, what's your name?" And the man replies, "Max, nice to meet you." And okay, Dave says, "Mate, I think I found your dog." And Max replies, "Where is he?" And Dave remembers, "I've left the dog at the other island." Okay, and so he says to Max, "Well, he's just back off the other island. How about we just jump in your boat and we travel back, and then we can hand over your dog. I can get my big reward and we can all be on our way." Okay, but there's a reason the man had the hammer in the boat. Okay, the man's actually trying to fix his boat. That's why he was stuck on the island. So, unfortunately, the man's boat's not working. And we know Dave's been sailing a long time in his old borrowed rickety boat. Okay, and Dave's boat's actually been starting to take on water as well, so Dave's not sure that his boat's really seaworthy either. So they decide they're going to stay on the island for another night. Okay, of course we know Dave is hungry, thirsty, got no water. The man doesn't really have any supplies either because the man was just over the island for the day. So Dave walks around the island, finds a little pond, grabs some water, okay, finds a tree. Coconuts right at the top. Okay, so Dave shakes the tree. Nothing happens. Okay, and he shakes the tree again. Okay, and he sees a coconut just about to come loose. And Dave dives out of the way, and the coconut smashes to the ground right where Dave was standing. Okay, good news, Dave thinks. Now I don't have to open the coconut. It's already there. So Dave eats the coconut, and he drinks his water, and he goes back to the man and says, how are we going with fixing your boat? And the man says, how are you going with me getting me some water? And replies, well, I had a drink. I've had a coconut, I'm good. How are you going with your boat? And it's just, oh, I think it's going to be another day. Don't really have many supplies here. I'm kind of just patching it up with whatever I can find. So they decide they're going to need to sleep on the island for another night. Okay, unfortunately, Dave's been on this journey for so long, it's actually starting to get close to winter, so it's a really cold night. Okay, so Dave and Max huddle up together in the boat for warmth, and they go to sleep. Okay. Now, today, Dave is not woken up by anything warm and wet licking his face, because that could only be the man, and that would be no good at all. Okay, so Dave just wakes up with the sun like normal people, and unlike everything else in this story, okay, the man says, I've fixed the boat, I think we're good to go. Okay, so Dave's a little bit worried, because the thing is, he's borrowed this other boat, and he needs to get the boat back. So he asks the man, can you fix my boat as well? The man says, sure, it might be another night. So Dave goes to explore the island. He finds his coconut tree, finds his stream, still forgets to bring anything back for the other man, and comes back. He says, have you finished working on my boat? Not quite. Have you finished getting me water? Well, kind of forgot that one again. Okay, so the man keeps working. Dave goes back to fetch him some supplies, and they sleep for another night on the island, and finally they wake up. Okay, so the man's fixed his boat, the man's fixed Dave's boat, and they're ready to sail back together. Okay, and the man says, I'm so happy that I'm going to be able to show you your very shaggy dog and return him. So they both jump in their boats, and they set sail back to the other island. And they dock on the other island, but the lady's boat's gone.
Oh my gosh. The lady took the dog.
So they yell. Well, Dave doesn't know what to yell because Dave doesn't know the dog's name. The only thing on the dog's name tag was the owner. So Dave yells, Max! Max says, yeah? He says, maybe you should call your dog. Okay, and Max yells, Steve! No answer. So he yells again, Steve! No answer. So they decide that the lady must have left with the dog, okay, because we don't really want to leave a dog stranded on a deserted island, do we? It wouldn't be good for the dog. Okay, so they scan the horizon and they see a boat travelling away. Okay, they think, that must be the lady's boat. So they follow the boat in their two boats. Okay, obviously remember Dave isn't a very good sailor, so he has a lot of trouble. They're not really managing to catch up very quickly. But eventually they catch up to the other boat just as it docks on our first island with the really unhelpful man. Okay, so the lady's parked her boat, the two men park their boats next to her, and they all jump off. And the lady says to Max, well, I guess Dave found you. Yep. And Dave says to Max, I'm so happy I'm going to be able to show you your very shaggy dog and return him that you've lost, and I'll be able to collect my big reward. So they walk up to the dog, and Max bends down, pats the dog, and he looks up at Dave and he says, mate, that's not mine, he's way too shaggy. Nice story, huh? Happy April Fool's Day.